On behalf of the Wilkes-Barre League of Women Voters, I'd like to welcome you to tonight's forum. And I'd like to thank Wyoming Seminary for giving us this location and for their help in setting this up. We appreciate it. Tonight's two candidates, we have the two candidates for the 120th Legislative District, Eileen Cipriani and Aaron Kaufer. Each candidate will be entitled to give a 2-minute introduction. And we chose numbers to see who would go first for that. And then we'll be asking questions, and we'll ask you to, if you have any questions, please submit them to people that are coming around. We do ask that you have them addressed to both candidates, okay? And we'll ask questions as time permits, and we'll be rotating them, so they'll be taking turns starting on those. We'd ask that you'll hold your applause till the end so we have time for as many questions as possible. And we also ask that you not hold up any political signs during the forum. Each candidate will then be given a 2-minute closing statement. And the League of Women Voters is a non-profit organization and nonpartisan, and we ask that nothing from this forum be used in any political ads or any campaign literature. And our forum should end about 8 o'clock. So without further ado, we will start with Ms. Cipriani.
Good evening. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight, and I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event and Wyoming Seminary for allowing us to use their facilities. Having been involved in many community organizations over the past 20 years, I've worked hard to make a positive impact in my community through Little League, Scouts, local government, and working in Representative Monday's district office to serve constituents. I've worked to improve my community. I'm in my 7th year of council in West Wyoming Borough, and I've served 4 terms as president. I've recently joined the CASA of Luzerne County to work with at-risk children, being on their board of directors. My investment in my time, my energy, and my commitment to our community, I know I have made a difference. One of the biggest challenges I've experienced in my political life was the financial crisis West Wyoming experienced. But in only 5 short years, we've made a remarkable recovery. As council president, I led the efforts to change the entire culture of our government. Transparency and good business practices have led to good government and financial stability. My elected officials and I have given back our salaries, and we're working to downsize our government. It's about good government and strong leadership. It's about actually reforming government, not just talking about reforming government. My efforts to restore financial health to our borough are well documented. We won the Governor's Award for Local Government Excellence, and under my stewardship, the borough has recovered its financial health and brought health back to our pension, taking it from a distressed status to a fully funded status. I'm also the founder of the Westside Council of Governments, and through that we've worked with bipartisanship and cooperation through municipalities up and down the West Side. Prior to becoming involved in local and state government, I worked 26 years as a medical technologist at Wilkes-Barre General Hospital. My husband Joe and I have 2 sons, and I'm looking forward to discussing the issues tonight of the residents of the 120th District.
Thank you. And I think you both can see the timekeepers there, so thank you. Okay, Mr. Kaufer, please.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters, Wyoming Seminary, Councilwoman Cipriani, but most of all you, the voters. I want to talk about 2 questions. Where are we today, and where are we going to go? First, where are we today? We have the highest unemployment rate in all the major labor markets in Pennsylvania. When you break it down by county, Luzerne County actually has the highest unemployment rate. We have unprecedented levels of corruption throughout our system, and Luzerne County knows it most of all. Over the past 20 years, the world has changed, but we have not. We went from an idea made in the USA to made in China. We entered an age of truly global economics. The days of the coal mines and the garment factories are long gone, but we haven't changed with the times. Over a dozen colleges and universities are in our backyard, but we can't keep students here after graduation. We chase away young people, our loved ones, from the area. We can't afford to subscribe to the same old ideas and the same old failed policies. According to Albert Einstein, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So, my second question, so where do we go from here? If you have a broken car, you go to a mechanic. If you have a broken government, you go to a reformer. My background is in political theory, structuring government and how it should work. My expertise is in government reform. Under the breath, everyone says our system is broken. Well, we have to change the system change the results. We have to stop shipping jobs overseas. We have to keep them here at home. We need to make Made in China an idea made in the past, and let's return to Made in America. And let's start here in Luzerne County, and let's start on November 4th. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Please hold your applause till the end. Thank you. This will sort of follow up with what Mr. Kaufer has just been saying. We have several questions from the audience, and several of them have to do with jobs. So I'll just read a few of those, and you can. One is, what is your jobs program? What do you plan on doing to bring jobs back to northeastern Pennsylvania? And do either of the candidates have a plan to bring jobs to the area? Mr. Kaufer?
Yes, I think jobs are one of the biggest issues going on right now, and something that we haven't really talked a lot during this campaign about. As I mentioned, we have the highest unemployment rate in any of the major labor markets here. And if we're going to compete with Made in China, we have to come up with a way. What's our competitive advantage here in northeastern Pennsylvania? And it's our cheap energy. We can't compete with the cheap labor overseas, nor do we want to. We don't want the sweatshop labor that exists over in China. But what we can do is use our cheap energy to our advantage. The Procter & Gamble plant, Mahoopany, actually operates on the natural gas right below their feet. They've invested millions of dollars to operate here in northeastern Pennsylvania to run their facility. We should encourage more companies to come here and do the exact same thing. Run your facility off our natural gas safely, and we'll give you an incentive to help move here. Along with that, I think our KOZ system is broken. Companies just come here for the allotted amount of time that they're tax-free and then move out. I think we should be cutting all new business tax credits. Cut them in half. Let's help spur entrepreneurship in our state. We need capital investment tax credits, helping grow mature businesses that need to become more efficient, that are looking to expand their services, but can't due to the tax programs we have. We have the highest corporate net income tax rate in all the United States and Pennsylvania. We're dead last for the taxes on mature business, 49th for any new business. We're not doing a good job for creating jobs. Now, on top of this, if we get involved with the property tax elimination and work on improving our infrastructure, we truly have a great opportunity for warehousing in our economy. With our location close to New York City, from Philadelphia, New Jersey, throughout all the different major markets on the East Coast, we have an opportunity for warehousing. We're starting to see it come here with Lord & Taylor, Neiman Marcus, many job opportunities here in northeastern Pennsylvania. We need a new plan, and we need to be looking for new ideas.
Ms. Cipriani?
I agree. Jobs is a huge issue here. But where I disagree is the last 4 years, Governor Corbett has gone on a plan of tax breaks, tax cuts, tax incentives, tax loopholes to big businesses. And we've gone from 7th in job growth all the way to 50th. This is an enormous problem, and it needs to change. We've given away over $2 billion in tax cuts to huge corporations, all while raising all of your taxes and my taxes. So we need to switch gears. We need a fresh start. And some of the things that Tom Wolf is proposing is bringing manufacturing jobs back to Pennsylvania. And we do that through education. We have some of the best universities around. We have great technical schools and great high schools. We have a great public school system. We need to work with that system to train people for the jobs of today. We don't want to bring warehouse jobs here because we don't need more minimum wage jobs. We need family-sustaining jobs in this area, and that's how we keep our children here, because there's jobs here for them to work to. No one could survive on warehouse jobs making minimum wage. That just doesn't work. But education, I believe, is the key to this, training, vocational training, and bringing programs such as that back to this area.
Thank you. This one we'll start with Ms. Cipriani. Should the Liquor Control Board be disbanded?
No. The Liquor Control Board is doing a great job in the state of Pennsylvania. It's very important work. We've had this system for many years, and we need to monitor all the establishments that we have in the state of Pennsylvania. We have a lot of bars, liquor stores, and other establishments, and they need to be monitored carefully so that we don't have crime, corruption, and there are issues going on in the state from that.
Thank you. Mr. Kaufer?
Well, we're one of only 2 states that actually privatize our liquor system. The other is Utah. We're in need of modernization in order to raise tax revenues. But is it such a bad thing to be able to stop by your supermarket and be able to pick up a bottle of wine? You know, we allowed beer in supermarkets, so I don't see a problem with expanding some of the programs that we have. If we encourage the growth, we're going to encourage an increase in revenues for our state.
Thank you. Do you support legislation abolishing school property taxes and replacing the revenue with increases in the sales and income taxes?
Is that to me?
Yes.
Absolutely, unequivocally, yes. The property tax system is unfair and unconstitutional, in my opinion. Our seniors and young people are the ones that are paying the price. We need a more equitable way of funding our education system. With the increase through Senate Bill and House Bill 76, we will better and more equitably fund our school system. We're going to stabilize housing prices by keeping people in their homes and help young people buy their starter homes. Right now, younger people can't afford to buy their home, pay the property taxes on top of the mortgage. They don't have all that money. We have an outdated system that dates back to the 1800s, and with this, it's a stimulus plan. It's putting money back into your pocket to help improve the quality of your life. If you had a few $1,000s extra, I'm sure there's a few things that you could find to spend that money on. Now, when I was going door to door, I met a woman in Swoyersville. She was 96 years old. And she talked about how she bought her home when her husband and her got married when they were 18. 18 years old. She's 96 now. Her mortgage has been paid off for almost 50 years now. And now she's making the tough decision of whether she could stay in her home or not. That's a problem. That's wrong. We need to find a better system for funding our education system, and Senate Bill, House Bill 76 absolutely lines out and lays out the way that we can do it in our state.
Ms. Cipriani?
I absolutely am behind House Bill, Senate Bill 76. I've been so right from the beginning of my campaign. This is a fairer way to level the playing field and allow everyone to participate in paying for public education. As I went door to door, we had extensive door to door, and property tax was number one. Just about every house you went to, people were concerned about the level of property tax, school taxes that they were paying. And the question is, you know, what are you going to decide? Are you going to pay for your medication? You're going to pay for your property taxes. I spent time working in Representative Monday's office, and the number of people that came in looking for their property tax rent rebate, when they would put down their figures and their papers on the table and show how much they made in their income and how much that they were spending in property taxes, you think, my God, how are they making ends meet? Because at the end of the day, the way the system is set up right now, you never truly own your home. Even once you pay your home off with property taxes, you're still in jeopardy of possibly losing your home if you can't afford to meet that burden. We need to fund education properly using a sales and income tax and fund it from the state level. It's a constitutional mandate of the state of Pennsylvania to provide education to our children, good quality education. And we need to fund it. We used to fund it at about 50% at the state level, and now we're funding it just over 30%. That's where the real problem starts, and that's what has pushed it down onto our local school boards and caused them to raise taxes. So we need to find a fairer way, and I think the fairer way is with House Bill and Senate Bill 76.
I think I might ask both of you just to take a minute and explain a little bit. Maybe not everybody knows what House Bill 76 is, so if you want to take a minute and tell us what your feeling is about what that bill says. If we could ask each of you to take a minute to do that, if that gives you enough time, or minute
sure.
or two.
The actual name is the Property Tax Elimination Act. And what it would do is switch from the way we pay it right now. Now you get a bill from your school district based on the value of your home and the millage that is put forth by your school district. Each school district could raise it by law 2.9% every year unless they have an exception, which most seem to do, and raise it above it. But what this bill would do would be increase the personal income tax and increase the sales tax on some items. And the sales tax would go from 6% to 7%. But what that means is that the burden doesn't just fly solely on people who own property. This means that everyone would be participating in this system.
Thank you. Mr. Kaufer, did you want to add anything to that?
Yes, I just want to add a couple things on that. With the increase, as she mentioned, it is a shift from 6% to 7%, some newly taxed items, and an increase in the PIT. It's a broader tax. Instead of having fewer people paying more, there would be more people paying less. And that's what it is. It's going to help the middle class. It's going to help stabilize our system. Another thing with the property tax bill that's important too is also casino revenues. We missed out on those revenues that we were promised. Where are they? that money has been misspent, reallocated to LSA accounts, to different lobbying groups. It's our money, and we deserve to get that money back as well.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question will start with Ms. Cipriani. What will you do to alleviate the problem of high pensions promised to public employees and legislators and the tremendous tax burden those promises will mean to taxpayers?
Well, the problem with pensions in Pennsylvania is an enormous problem, and it overshadows our budget for the entire state. Right now, we're about $60 billion in debt with the pension in the state of Pennsylvania. Now, we didn't get there overnight. By way of history, back in 2001, the state legislature, under the control of a Republican governor and Republican House and Senate, actually raised their own pension and raised that of state employees. Then we were hit with several economic downturns, which have brought us to this problem. They've since set that back with Act 120 in 2010 and corrected it upon new employees, but we still have the other employees in the system. The big problem right now in this is how do we pay that $60 billion? Because that overshadows, as I said, our budget every single year, how to make that big payment. And the payment is the school districts have the same problem. There are some ideas floated into the Senate and the House right now to actually use a series of bond funding to pay off that debt and pull out that liability so that it can be afforded by the state and bring us out of such a large debt. Right now, our credit rating in the state of Pennsylvania has been downgraded multiple times because of the debt we're in. So I think looking at this, refinancing with the bond system is a good idea. In the borough of West Wyoming, we ended up with a huge debt in our pension prior to my time on council. And what we did was we refinanced our debt. And we ended up taking our pension from a PERC score of 70, which is a distressed pension, to a PERC score of 118, which is fully funded. That's a model for what we could do going forward to getting ourselves out of this problem.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufer.
Too often, the blame is on state employees and teachers, and it's definitely the biggest issue facing the Commonwealth. So as Councilwoman Cipriani mentioned, that the state and local districts were able to defer payments because of the 2001 legislation. And it passed with near unanimous vote from both Republicans and Democrats. So this is something that both parties sold us out on. It was a big issue. Then in 2008, we had the economic downturn. We lost billions and billions of dollars. Now, we are likely going to have to, and there's talks about this, of new hires moving over to a defined contribution system. Not changing the people who are already in the system or already retired. And in order to do this, as we've mentioned before, it is a $60 billion issue we're talking about. Our state budget is $29.4 billion. This is twice our state budget. If we don't do anything about this, in 5 years, half of our education budget will be dedicated to retirement payments. $5.5 billion of our education budget. So I've decided that I made a commitment to not accept the pension multiplier that is bankrupting our system and pay into a separate 401k. I determined that I was going to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And I have a question for you, Councilwoman Cipriani. Will you pledge not to accept the pension multiplier, which is bankrupting our state?
I think I'll be asking the questions, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Our next question will start with you, Mr. Kaufer. How will you improve funding for mental health programs?
Yes. We have a lot of redundancies done right now in our government when it comes to mental health. We have a lot of programs that some are federally funded, some are done through the state, some are done through different school districts. We have a great program that's done through the IU with a number of different mental health programs. There's a Lowe's program for helping people who are mentally handicapped be able to work in warehousing facilities and help them that if they are able to do the job, they're actually hired full-time after a temporary period. There are other programs involved with shredding, with Hillside Farms. There's a lot of great opportunities. With our mental health, it falls into our Department of Public Welfare as well in our state budget. And I think when we talk about our Department of Public Welfare, close to 40% of our state budget goes to public welfare. 40%. 40 cents of every dollar you pay goes to public welfare. Now, if we're going to put more money into mental health, we have to be transitioning those who are abusing our public welfare system so that we can fund the people that need help. That's what we should be looking to do. It's how we cut up the pie, making sure that people who are in need of help are the ones receiving it, not the ones abusing the system.
Thank you. Ms. Cipriani, did I miss you on that last question? I didn't, did I?
No, I think it's my turn to answer
Okay,
now.
yes, to answer now. Okay, just wanted to be sure. Thank you.
Yeah, mental health issues are a large issue in the state of Pennsylvania, and as Aaron pointed out, the public works budget is the biggest chunk of our state budget. But what has happened in the last 4 years is mental health issues and funding for mental health issues has been cut significantly. There are wonderful programs that were going on right here in the county that have been cut, and people have been displaced. There's other facilities that people are on the verge, up at Clark Summit State Hospital, people are on the verge of being put out of those facilities because there's no funding from the state. So we do need to reevaluate how we're cutting up the pie of that public money, because there are people abusing the system, that is correct, but this mental health issue, they seem to be the people that always end up on the short end. Money goes to other places first, and these people need to be taken care of, and this is a big issue, and it's one that I would advocate strongly for if elected.
Thank you. This question will start with you. Should education dollars be used for vouchers for private schools? Why or why not?
Well, as I said before, funding public education is a constitutional mandate by the state of Pennsylvania. We need to have good quality public education for all of our children. The public education and solid education is the economic driver for us here. That's how we create jobs. That's how we stimulate our economy. We cannot continually divert money out of our public education system and then expect for it to succeed and be successful. We've diverted money far too often to other programs, and this has added to the shortfall that we have in the education budget and the crisis we have in education here in the state of Pennsylvania today.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufer.
I think before we can address the voucher issue, we really have to address the way we fund education. I think it's the biggest issue. I agree that we shouldn't be diverting money now out of our public education system. Until we find a sustainable funding formula for education, we shouldn't be looking to take money away. Now, my mother's a retired teacher. She taught in public education from Tunkhannock area for 37 years. And I'm a public school person as well. I see a couple of my classmates out here as well who went to public education with me. We know that we had a great education. And the things that have been happening to take money away from public education is not in our best interest. And in order to make sure that we have the best school system, now is not the time to be diverting money away from public education. The voucher system is something that over time should be looked at. People who choose not to go to public school and have their children go to a private education should have the opportunity to get some money back. There's no doubt about that if they choose not to use the system. But at this point where we're at, it's just not sustainable and it's not an opportunity for us.
Okay, thank you. What is your plan to help vets coming home to get affordable housing?
Yeah, Senator Baker has actually taken a lot of leadership on this type of legislation, and I really salute her, what she's been doing. One of the things that we have a problem with is not only finding housing, but lining people up with work when they come back from overseas. It's a huge issue, and Senator Baker has been working to make it easier through our jobs portal, through our jobs portal on our state website, with job retraining programs when people come back from overseas. It's not just finding housing, but being able to find employment so that they can afford the housing. It's the problems that go hand in hand that need to be addressed. It's not just finding the housing, but being able to afford the housing. And by helping with this program that Senator Baker has outlined through various legislation efforts, there have been several over the past year or two that she's put forward to help our vets coming home and help them find housing and employment.
Ms. Cipriani?
We do need to have programs like Senator Baker's and others. Many, many years ago, the GI Bill was after World War II, and it gave so many people a good start and got them in a home and got them moving forward and getting people to get family-sustaining jobs. And that's what created our middle class after World War II. Our country flourished and blossomed after that. So we need to continue to look at programs such as that. We need educational and vocational training and get our veterans into those programs so that they can get good jobs. And the other thing we need to look at, the crisis we have in our VA system here in the country. It's unconscionable to think that veterans could have to come home after serving their country and risking their life for their country, and then end up having to wait months on end for a doctor's appointment for the medical care that they deserve so rightly.
Thank you. What is your position on the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms, and do you favor any restrictions in gun owning?
I'm a strong advocate of the Second Amendment. I believe people should have a right to bear arms for hunting safety. That's their right by the Second Amendment, and I stand behind that. I do think that we need to try and enforce the laws of the land that we have as best as we can, because the idea is to keep guns out of the hands of people that are handicapped or have mental illness. We've seen so many episodes throughout the country where people with mental illness end up with a gun and people end up with the loss of life.
Mr. Kaufer?
Yes, I'm a strong supporter of the NRA, of the Second Amendment and the NRA. I think that your right to bear arms is a fundamental right. I think the way we've been going, born and raised in this area, hunting has a lot to do with the right to bear arms. And a lot of people in our area are hunters. As we move forward, I'm a strong proponent of gun rights. I'm a strong proponent of the Second Amendment. I think that it is, it's number 2 for a reason, because it is very, very important.
Thank you. What is your position on gay marriage?
So, gay marriage is an issue that hits pretty close to home with me. I have a brother who is gay. He is my oldest brother, love him dearly. And in conversations I've had with gay people in the community that I've talked with, they want the same rights. They don't want special treatment. They don't want anything special. They just want to be protected. They want the same rights as everyone else. Sexual identity should be a protected class within our government. There's no reason that where we are in government that people should be able to lose their home, lose their job because they're gay. I think it is a huge issue. I think people deserve equal rights, and it's a movement that I think is growing and that we'll be seeing going forward.
I agree wholeheartedly. I believe in civil rights equally for everyone. Your gender identity should not make any difference in your civil rights. I'm also a strong proponent in laws to stomp out discrimination against anyone, whether it's gender identity, race, creed, or color. No one should be discriminated against in the state of Pennsylvania. Everyone should have equal rights under the law.
Thank you. The 120th Legislative District has seen a drastic increase in crime, especially drug-related. If elected, what would you do to address this problem?
That's true. We've seen a lot of gang issues in the 120th Legislative District recently, and drug crimes. One of the things that's right now, right in front of us going on, is the West Side Council of Governments that I'm the president of. What we just did recently is we just got funding so that we could have all our police departments on this side of the river get upgraded equipment in their police vehicles called mobile data terminals and CAD software, which connects them to the software, to the county. Right in real time, this is like having a mobile police department in each vehicle and connecting them together. We need to fight crime through a cooperative and collaborative issue. Crime doesn't know that there's a difference between Kingston and 44th. It goes from borough to borough. So it's extremely important that we work together as municipalities to fight crime, and we need to work together on the state level that we have the resources to fight crime. I would advocate that we work together with Attorney General Kane to bring programs like she's brought to Hazleton right into here, into this district, so that we could have task forces to fight crime. The other thing that we need to work on collectively as municipalities is our code enforcement and building enforcement. These things go hand in hand with crime. We have a lot of rental properties, and we need to make sure that we're monitoring who's in them and what's going on in them. And we could do that through code enforcement, but we need our municipalities to work together to make that happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also think that crime is a huge issue going on right now. We've seen it take over our community. We could see it changing right before our eyes. And I think there is a fundamental connection between schools and crime. And there's a couple things that we need to be doing. We need to be working better with our teachers and administrators and identifying troubled students. Recently, a lot of people probably don't even know about this, but last year, there was an issue at Wyoming Valley West where there was going to be a shooting at a basketball game. And they had to cancel the basketball game because of gang-related issues. The only way they found out was because a student came up to the principal and said, there's going to be something happening tonight at the basketball game. I think we're missing out on that dialogue, that honest conversation between what's going on with our students, with the teachers, with public safety. Another big thing that I think we're missing out with, and we always talk about early education in schools. We're missing out on after-school programming as well. Something I did when I was at Lafayette College, I worked with an after-school programming group called Spring Garden. And what we used to do was tutor children 2 days a week in inner-city Easton on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We used to go down, help them with their homework, then play games with them. It's a 3-hour program that we did a couple times a week, and we helped mentor these children. There's no reason that we can't have after-school programming going on in our state to help give mentors to students that are troubled. I think it's where we need to be going, and I think it's one of the major areas that we're lacking in our state right now.
Thank you. How do you plan on lowering taxes overall for working families?
Is it to me first?
Yes.
So the biggest thing that's going on is people are taxed to death. I think one of the best ways that we could be doing this is through the property tax elimination bill. I think many middle-class families are going to benefit from this. By eliminating our school property taxes, that money is going to go back into your pocket, help you to be able to spend money on things that you need. We need to make sure that we're spending our money better. We have that $29.4 billion pie of our state budget, and a lot of it is misallocated. They recently did a study in our state in Fortune magazine. 5.5% of our state budget goes directly to corruption. 5.5%. More than 5 cents of every dollar you pay to the government goes to corruption. Sickening. I mean, there are plenty of places that we can cut money. When it comes to our legislature, we spend $314 million on our legislature. Our legislators receive $86,000 a year, automatic pay raises, per diems, pensions, taxpayer-funded automobiles, you name it. You know, $314 million. The only one more expensive than us is California at $319 million. They're 3 times our size. And the next closest to that is New York at $214 million. We have 3,000 legislative staffers. The next closest, which is by far the most, the next closest is California with 2,000 legislative staffers. You want to know what the problem is? It's government. It's bloated. We're spending way too much money on it. You want to get the money back to you? You want true representative government? We don't need to be sending more money to government. We need to be rooting out the fraud, corruption, and abuse going on in government right now.
Thank you.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, yes. How do you plan on lowering taxes overall for working families?
Well, a first start would be passing the Property Tax Elimination Act. That would overall lower property taxes on people going forward and spread out the burden, as we have discussed earlier in the conversation. But the other thing is that a way to reduce taxes is something that we've been doing through the Westside Council of Government. Is we do have a lot of duplication, and we have a lot of duplication on the local level, state level, and the county level, in the school districts included. We have municipalities that each have their own police department, code enforcement department, building inspectors. All this stuff is duplication of services. School districts also have duplication of services. We need to work together to share resources, share services. School districts could work together for group purchasing, lower cost throughout the school districts. So one of the things we've been working on very strongly with the Westside Council of Governments is purchasing together so that we are conserving your tax dollars. We need to be respectful of the tax dollars when we spend them. We need to do it locally, we need to do it on the county level, and we need to do it at the state level. There's a lot of repetition everywhere, and there is room for cutting and reducing a lot of what we supply. So working together to reduce costs will reduce the tax burden on us.
How do you feel about imposing a severance tax on gas drilling?
I'm supportive of a severance tax on gas drilling. You know, Blue Ribbon Ice Cream is a store that it's not far from me. My husband and I go there frequently for Sundays. And, you know, when you stop and think about it, they have to pay taxes on their ice cream cones. But big gas companies, they're getting a free pass on the services, the gas that they're producing from the ground. Estimates show right now that we're losing out in the state of Pennsylvania on about $700 million to $1 billion every single year because we're not taxing the gas industry. And what's going on even further is the fact that numerous pipelines are being put in, that they're shipping the gas right out of Pennsylvania to other states and ultimately overseas, and we're still not getting an extraction tax on that. And to add insult to injury, for years, as we've been importing gas, we've been paying extraction taxes to Texas and Oklahoma and Louisiana, but right now we're giving away this precious resource that we have. The gas industry is a huge economic resource, but it needs to be done right, it needs to be done safely, it needs to be done properly, and there needs to be a reasonable severance tax on the gas industry. We have a financial crisis in Pennsylvania right now, and we're missing out on $1 billion a year. It makes no sense that Governor Corbett and the legislature that we have right now hasn't pushed forward an extraction tax on the industry.
I also support an extraction tax, but for different reasons. Something that a lot of people don't know is that in our state, we actually have a double taxation on business. We have a corporate net income tax rate and a capital stock and franchise tax. We're the only state that has two. You often hear that we're the only state that doesn't have an extraction tax, which is true, and I support an extraction tax. But the reason why is because of the way it affects our county. In our county, we're considered non-affected because we don't have active gas drilling going on. So what this would do in an extraction tax, would actually give us a larger piece of the pie that's going on. So because we are considered not affected, even though it's our roads and bridges that are connecting the natural gas to our north to the rest of the economy, this will put money back into our county's coffers. And what this will do is help put money for our roads and bridges, it will safely manage the risk involved. It'll allow for independent testing, emergency and disaster relief, infrastructure repair, early childhood initiatives that we've talked about. And most importantly, one of the things that I think we realized from looking at what happened with the coal mines is we have to be proactive in our thinking. We just don't want to drill and be done with it. This is our opportunity. We need to make sure that we reinvest from here to the next renewable energy. Make sure that we're sustainable going forward. This green energy that we hear so much about. This is our bridge. This is to whatever comes next. And we need to make sure that natural gas, that we invest the money to make sure that we're going to be invested for our future.
Thank you. Can you give an example of a new idea that you had that solved an old problem?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's why I'm running. I stepped forward, after graduating from college to run for office because I think we have a lot of older problems in our government. You look at what's going on, and my background's in political theory. You look at a system where we're not encouraged to work together as legislators. And I put forward a 12-point plan, PA first, about how we're going to get our government back on track, things that other people aren't talking about. Right now, legislation is actually drafted behind closed doors in legislative caucuses. You want to know why our parties don't work together? Because they can't. Why isn't legislation being written on the floor, working together? We need to change the way we do redistricting. I've written several letters to the editor about this, about how we need to change from having party leadership and control, but to actually have a computer system, something away from the parties and the party leadership and control. We need things like term limits, where we're not going to create an indefinite legislature, but actually inspire people to actually work on your behalf. Not be worried about the re-election bids, but actually working on representing you. We need to talk about open elections, where there aren't parties on the ballot, but you're actually voting for individuals who aren't going to be members of this party structure. And lastly, I think it's important that we talk about the money in politics. If we don't address the money in politics, it's the biggest issue going on, about who funds whose campaign, who they're selling out to, and what they're going to do. When I announced my campaign, the very next day I got a phone call from an independent group who said, "How many zeros do you want on a check from us?" I answered them, 1. I don't want anything from you. I know I got that phone call. How many other people out there are getting that phone call? We need to change the system. And I've stepped forward to run for office because I'm not a corporate sellout. I'm here doing it the hard way. I've knocked on your doors. I've had conversations with you to change the system by leading by example.
Ms. Cipriani?
Was the question a problem that we had solved?
Yes. Can you give an example of a new idea you had that solved an old problem?
When I went to college a few years ago, When I left college, I had all this academic knowledge and how things were going to work according to academia. And then when I started to work in the laboratory, I realized that nothing matched up. It was the laboratory of life, so to speak. It wasn't exactly as it was when I went in college. You know, solving problems is really hard. In municipal government, it's quite a challenge. And one of the things that we had, it's a very practical example, we had a road in town that was full of potholes for almost 2 decades, water pooled in it all the time. And I went to a seminar, and in the state of Washington, they have this innovative project where they corral their stormwater and put it in riparian gardens. That's what we did in West Wyoming. Thought outside the box. Under my leadership, we managed to resurface roads by thinking outside the box and getting funding for these programs, taking the water that we were flooding our streets with, putting it into riparian gardens, and recharging our aquifer. This is just one example of solving problems in real life. You know, you could talk about reforming and you could talk about theory, but when it comes to day, it's about getting things done and showing actual results.
Thank you. Thank you. Please hold your applause. What is your position on term limits? And if you were elected, would you voluntarily limit your service if term limits were imposed?
Well, we actually have 2-year term limits right now. You have to run for election every 2 years. I think if we voluntarily impose a limit, we're shortchanging our constituents. If there is term limits, they should be decided by a constitutional convention. The last constitutional convention we had here in the state of Pennsylvania, I believe, was in the late 60s. There's a number of issues in addition to term limits that need to be discussed at that time, and campaign finance, as Aaron pointed out, is another huge issue that needs to be addressed, and so does redistricting. These are big issues that are altering our state government and changing it that the people don't actually get to elect their representatives are actually electing them with redistricting. I would be all for term limits if all the legislators had the same term limit. What we don't want to do is shortchange the people here. The current system in Harrisburg is predicated on seniority. So until that system is changed, we certainly don't want to shortchange our residents for some kind of political gain.
Mr. Kaufer?
I'm a big supporter of term limits, and I've actually committed to only serving 8 years, which would be 4 terms in the state legislature. And there's several reasons why. I think we've reached a do-nothing legislature. They're constantly campaigning, constantly fundraising, getting their connections in Harrisburg so that they can run their next campaign. I don't even know something that the legislature did in the last 2 years. Can you name something off the top of your head that they did in the last 2 years? Fundraise, raise some money for their next campaign. Enough is enough. We want somebody to represent us, to be out there fighting for you. I'm not going to be worried about getting reelected constantly. I'm going to be there to work for you, on your behalf, to fight on the issues that are important. There's an old adage in politics, don't make waves. If you don't make waves, you'll get reelected. Well, the people are sick of that. We need somebody to make a wave. We need somebody to stand up and do something to represent us. I think that's what we're waiting for. We need somebody to lead by example and say, you know what, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start that trend. And hopefully the representative after me will do the same thing and fight and not worry about getting reelected, not worrying about these special interests who are funding my campaigns. We've been calling for a constitutional convention for decades. It hasn't happened. We need somebody to actually lead by example in order to reform the system. The seniority system's broken. If you want to talk about do it our way for decades, and then you can have the power that I have, we've already sold out. We need somebody who's going to represent us. You need somebody to stand up to the lobbyists, to stand up to the institutional party system. We need somebody to represent the people, and that's what we've lost. We've created party leaders. We've created seniority leaders. We aren't creating people leaders.
Please hold your applause. We only have a few minutes left, so thank you. Do you believe a woman has the right to make reproductive health choices without interference from government?
I am pro-life, with certain exceptions, for death of the mother, rape, incest. I think where we're at, and I won't make apologies for being pro-life. I think that's where the majority of the people of our district are. I think it is a very fine line what we're talking about of where government steps in and where it doesn't. Like I said, I won't make apologies for being pro-life. I don't support taxpayer-funded abortions. I don't support any sort of late-term abortions or anything like that. I am pro-life. I'm proud to be pro-life. And like I said, I will make no apologies for it.
I believe in a woman's right to make her own decisions based on her health, her family, her doctor, her clergy, and without interference of the government. I don't believe in late-term abortions either. That's just simply wrong, and it's not even permissible in the state of Pennsylvania. Also, right now, abortions are at a 40-year low in the state of Pennsylvania, and that's the trend that we need to keep going. That's what we need to work for. We need to make that not an option for anyone, not an option anyone wants to take. And by doing that, what we need to do is to take these young women and give them quality health care. We need to give them choices with contraception so that they don't get into this problem in the first place. And then after the child is born, we need to work with programs like the Nurse-Family Partnership so that these women could have a backup, have support, have guidance on how to raise a child. Nobody is for abortions and pro-abortion. And people in the newspaper have written that about me, and I find it to be completely appalling. It is not my position whatsoever. These people that have written about me, I've never even met in my life. That is not what I think, and that's not what I believe. I believe that women have their right to make their choice based on their own faith, with consultation with their doctor and their family. I don't think the government should be telling them how to choose and how to choose their reproductive issues.
Please, thank you. Other than the obvious gender, age, intelligence, please tell us 3 distinct items, representative related, that distinguishes you from the person sitting next to you.
Well, number one, I would say, would be experience. I have a wealth of experience in working in local government and state government, and experience matters. As I said before, when you talk about book learning and then translate it to real life, it's a whole different world. Working in local government was an eye-opener when I got elected to council. When I first got there, I kept thinking, well, why don't they simply just do this? Well, you simply can't just do anything. Everything takes a lot of time in government. It's a large learning curve, and I've gone through that. I also have a wealth of experience in community service. I've worked with so many organizations over the years, and I've learned to make a difference in my community. These are all important things, and important things that you bring to the table to be able to make decisions about people. And the other thing is my work history. I have a long work history. I've worked for 26 years in the healthcare industry, learning to work with people in communication, cooperation, collaboration, trying to get the work done in busy, hectic systems. And that's a lot to learn and a lot to deal with. And then we took it forward in working in Representative Monday's district office. It's about a strong work ethic that I have, and I've done so since I was 16 years old when I started working at Pudgy's Pizza in Kingston for, probably $1 an hour, I think it was at that time. So I bring to the table a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience, and the ability to get the job done and start running from day one when I get in Harrisburg.
Mr. Kaufer.
The 3 that I'd like to talk about is passion, energy, and compromise. First thing, I wouldn't be running at the age of 26 unless I had the passion to make a difference. I think right now we're sick of the same cookie-cutter career politicians. It's time for something different. We all talk about how we want change, but everybody's afraid to vote for it. I'm fed up with the system. I wouldn't be running. I'm here to talk about the reforms and the changes we need to make. I bring my passion forward in doing that. When it comes to energy, I've come and knocked on 35,000 doors. I've knocked on your door. I've talked with you about the issues that are important to you, and I've listened. I heard what you had to say. I'm a person of the people. I'm a representative of the people. I've talked with you. I've listened with you. I'm not someone hiding behind a desk. I'm your neighbor. And compromise. I've been endorsed just recently by close to 20 Democratic elected officials in our area. Elected Democrats who stepped forward and said, I like your plans. I like your energy. I like what you bring to the table. You're the type of person we need that isn't just going to be a face in the crowd, who's not just going to be a party person. I think that's what we need. Somebody who's going to get there, no matter who the next governor is. I'm not going to demonize the Democrats or the Republicans. I'm there to work with you. I'm one of 203. I want to work with the other 202. And I think where we make these lines in the sand that this party's bad and that party's bad and this person's bad, that's the problem. We need to come together and work for solutions. And I think that's the problem that we have going on right now, that I've drafted my policies with people on both sides of the aisle. And I think that's what we're lacking right now.
How do you feel about medical marijuana and marijuana legalization in general?
So when I was in college, my best friend Sarah was actually diagnosed with Crohn's disease. She was a senior and I was a sophomore, and she tried all sorts of treatments. She tried everything that she could in the state of New Jersey, where her family was from, and nothing worked. They decided they had a temporary experimental group with medicinal marijuana with a certain strain, and it worked. And as a senior in college, her entire family had to pick up and move from New Jersey to Washington State for her to receive her treatments. We've been finding a lot of medical research in recent times that certain strains, if harnessed and in the right doses, can properly maintain certain illnesses and issues going on in the medical field. I don't think it's between a doctor and his patient to prescribe the right medicine. That is something that's very important. And I don't think the government should be telling you, if a doctor says this is what's going to serve you best, I don't think that the government should be there to stop you.
I too believe in legalizing medical marijuana. There are numerous disease states where people can curb their suffering greatly by the access to having medical marijuana. You know, back when I was working at Nesbitt Hospital, it was probably about 2008, a woman who I was friends with in high school was diagnosed with AIDS. And she came into the hospital at that point, and I was friends with her and followed her through her entire course of treatment. And in order to stimulate her appetite, they prescribed for her Marinol. But Marinol is the inner ingredient that's in marijuana. It wasn't as effective as it could have been. And, you know, she subsequently died years ago. But I wonder today, though, had medical marijuana been legal in the state of Pennsylvania, could that have worked to aid her suffering and given her a better quality of life? So I am an advocate of legalizing medical marijuana.
Thank you. There has been much discussion on ways to raise revenue for Pennsylvania, the gas tax, privatization, taxing roads, state pension revisions. What legislation do you believe will be the most effective in filling the budget gap?
Definitely taxing the shale. We estimate, as I said before, that we're missing out on $700 million to $1 billion a year. And when you think about it, we've been extracting gas now for about 6 years. This is a sizable piece of revenue that we're missing out on. You think about it, we just, the state legislature and Governor Corbett just passed a transportation bill that increased your fuel tax. So when you drive to work, you have to pay more in order to fill up your tank of gas. And the reason for this is we had crumbling bridges and crumbling roads, and that was true. We needed to repair those. But we needed to look at the Marcellus shale industry as a way to get that funding from that gas tax. You know, in Luzerne County, we received next to no revenue at all because we don't have any active wells here. Other municipalities, some places up in Bradford County, they're receiving $500,000 a year from the gas industry because of this inequitable system that has been set up by Governor Corbett with the tax that he has on it now. It's only 1.8% tax on it. So we need to use that money, and I think that would be a changer in the state of Pennsylvania to upgrade our infrastructure, fill the huge budget hole that we have, and help fill the education budget hole that we have in Pennsylvania.
The biggest change that we could actually do to raise revenues has nothing to do with raising your taxes. I think that's the problem we have. I think people are taxed enough already. I think we all feel that as our discretionary income is coming less and less, we are finding it harder and harder to make ends meet. I talked before about several different things about government reform to save us a lot of money. 5.5% in corruption and fraud. Right there, that's $1.5 billion. We're already talking about more than what a severance act would bring by actually having watchdog government. We don't have it right now. If you go through the government line by line and look at 3,000 legislative staffers, where we had a person in our executive branch who was a special education advisor that never had a conversation, never had a phone call or an email with the person he was supposed to be working with. No-show political jobs. We have them. They're riddled throughout our government. 3,000 legislative staffers. 3,000. The next closest state at 2,000. We can't be more efficient than that. We have to change the system to change the results. It's not about raising taxes, it's about spending the money we have already more efficiently. In Governor Rendell's administration, our budget went from roughly $20 billion to $30 billion. Our taxes increased by 50%. Is it time for our taxes to be increased again another 50%? I think we need to find better ways to spend the money we have at hand without raising your taxes. You can spend your money better than our government can. I would rather you spend your money than our government do it.
How do you propose to increase the quality of life of those living here and visiting here?
That's to me first,
That's
right?
for you, yeah.
If we're going to increase the quality of life, it's about prosperity. We hear so often about our area and that it's down in a recession economically. If we're going to increase the quality of life, we need a job base. And I disagree. People can live on warehousing jobs. And I know plenty of people that live on warehousing jobs. We have a great opportunity, but we have to rebuild our job base here in Luzerne County in northeastern Pennsylvania. We have the opportunity here. We're talking about opportunities to the north of us in the Marcellus Shale region. We're talking about opportunities with warehousing if we actually fix our infrastructure and work on warehousing here in northeastern Pennsylvania. By doing this, here's a fun fact I'm not sure if you guys know. In North Dakota, Walmart employees actually earn $17 an hour. Pretty good, right? It's because they've encouraged prosperity. Their economy is growing. You want to increase the quality of life? It's through prosperity in our region. We need to make sure that the people graduating from college have a reason to stay here, to find jobs. And that first involves creating a job base. You're not going to create your white-collar jobs without having the blue-collar jobs here first. And that's what we're lacking in. We never made it past the coal mining and garment factory days. We need true job base here in northeastern Pennsylvania to get things turned around.
Cipriani?
Well, we do need jobs here, and that is what will turn us around, but we don't need minimum wage jobs. We need to have family-sustaining jobs. We can't have people working 3 minimum wage jobs just to make themselves above the poverty line. And the way to bring jobs here is through education and vocational and training programs. You know, as we've talked about early in the night, that's how we bring jobs here. A friend of mine works at the Career Link. They have people there, they're looking for people for commercial driver's licenses. LCC has a program. We need to link those two together so that that's a family-sustaining job. And that's what we need to bring here. The other thing we need to bring is I've gone door to door and walking up and down all the neighborhoods throughout the 120th district, is we have decaying infrastructure. We have decaying homes and decaying neighborhoods. That we need to work on. We need to work on our code enforcement and building enforcement because we don't want these dilapidated properties. We don't want out-of-town absentee landlords having dozens of properties that are falling apart and having little neighborhoods that once were a thriving little middle-class neighborhood falling to pieces. You know, going door to door, I was in Kingston, walked down a door, and a little old lady was sitting on her porch, and all the houses next to her were falling apart. Hers was perfect, pristine. The house next to it was condemned. It had papers on the door that they were going to condemn the house and tear it down. And she sat there on the porch. She said to me, "My husband and I bought this house 40-some years ago. We lived in it our entire life, and he's now passed away." She said, "I'm afraid to live in this neighborhood, and I want to move." And I thought my heart went out to her because that's not how this should be. So we need to work together. We need to have better laws at the state that we could help these municipalities clean up these blighted neighborhoods. Working in West Wyoming Borough, sorry, we're getting cut off. Sorry.
Okay, now we'll have time for our closing statements. We'll start with Ms. Cipriani.
Sure. You know, my opponent says he's worn out a pair of shoes running for office, and that's one of the hardest jobs he's ever had. But I have a closet full of shoes that I've worn out. I've worn them out working. I've worn them out running a household. I've worn them out raising 2 boys, worn them out caring for elderly parents, volunteering in my community. I've worn out shoes running a municipal government, organizing an 11-member council of governments, and being on the board of a nonprofit. Running for office isn't work for me, and I've enjoyed meeting the residents of this district and learning about their problems and discussing ways to solve them, and looking for innovative solutions for their problems. I look forward to wearing out more shoes being your representative in Harrisburg. As I've demonstrated here tonight, I know and understand the issues facing the residents of the 120th District, and that's a result of my experience in local and state government. My extensive history and community involvement is evidence of my dedication to serve others. And I'm committed to addressing the issues that are here and working to solve the tough problems we have in Harrisburg, and doing with honesty, integrity, and respect. I've grappled with all of these tough issues that our municipalities have and used innovative thinking. Just because I've been around a lot longer than Aaron doesn't mean I don't have new ideas. I've used them all the time in West Wyoming Borough and thinking outside of the box. And that's how we've made a full financial recovery in our municipality. It just didn't happen overnight, and it happened with a lot of hard work and a lot of sweat and a lot of creative solutions to problems that we had there. And I've worked out and started the West Side Council of Governments. That's an old idea, but it took leadership and it took skill to put it together and make it actually happen. Just because you have a good idea, you need to be able to have the leadership and the strength and the skill to make it come to fruition, and that's what I've done. You know, our district has faced many complex issues, and there's no simple solutions, but we have intelligent choices that we have to make. And because I've taken on these tough issues, I know the ins and outs, and I know I can hit the ground running when I get to Harrisburg. And together, working through bipartisan cooperation, as I've done year after year, working with all the municipalities, with cooperating and bringing people together, I know that I can continue to make a positive difference and stand up for your rights in Harrisburg.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufer. Yep, please. We'll have time to thank them. Thank you.
Well, we've covered a lot of issues today, but not nearly enough. And according to Albert Einstein, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. I've been to your door, and I've been to roughly 35,000 doors. I've shown a level of commitment that I don't think anyone ever running for office has shown. I've come to talk with you. I'm a person of the people. I'm not somebody hiding behind a desk, touting all the accomplishments I've ever done. I'm here to work for you, to fight for you. I've done that by showing up to your door, to have that conversation with you. You know, over the course of this debate, you know, there was something that we really didn't get a chance to talk about, and it's something that I just want to quickly touch on. One of the things that we missed out on was welfare reform in our area. We've talked so much, we see people out of jobs that can't find employment. Well, there's all sorts of agencies we had. I mentioned that 40% of our state budget goes to Department of Public Welfare. We have the Workforce Investment Board, we have Career Link, local DPW offices, but we have too many redundancies and not enough work, and not enough results. So where are we going? We need welfare to work program that actually puts people to work, partnering with local colleges and universities, retraining people and getting them back to work. And I think that's one area that we just completely missed tonight that I think it's very important that I should touch base on. But before I end, I want to say one thing. Do you want somebody who's going to be a face in the crowd, a party politician, or do you want somebody that you know is going to stand up and fight for reform? Somebody that has taken on the party and said, I'm still on the other side fighting. I'm here to fight for you. I'm here to fight for your interests. I'm not a party line politician. As you can tell, I don't use their talking points. I'm here to fight for you, for your interests, not the party's interests. That's what we need in Harrisburg. That's what we deserve in Harrisburg. And that's why I'm asking for your vote on November 4th.
I'd like to thank both the candidates for spending their time with us this evening. I'd also like to thank Wyoming Seminary for this space, and for all of you for your wonderful questions. It was a great opportunity to hear from both of the candidates. This forum will be televised on Service Electric, Channel 19, on Saturday and Sunday at 3 p.m., and it will also be on YouTube, Kaufer Cipriani, under Kaufer Cipriani Debate. Please look for our voter's guide, which will be in the Citizen's Voice on Monday, November 3rd, the day before the election. And don't forget to vote on November 4th. Thank you very much.